Hello, I'm Liam and welcome to my video on how to grow elephant garlic. In this video on how to plant elephant garlic, I cover everything from planting the cloves through to germination and harvesting. And at the end of the video, I mention how I store my elephant garlic. And it's actually the stored elephant garlic I'm going to be planting this morning. You can see the clove is still a little bit dirty because I don't like to remove too much of the dirt in case I damage the cloves, which may affect it in storage. I hope this is coming out well on the camera, but the elephant garlic bulb is almost 4 or 5 times the size of my normal garlic. Also, I think it's interesting to look at the size of the cloves themselves. This is an elephant garlic clove. I would say that's somewhere between 1.5 and 2 inches in length. And this is one of my normal garlic cloves, which is a little under an inch. Now, sometimes growing larger vegetables can be more tricky for a gardener, but that's not the case with elephant garlic. It can be grown much the same way as normal garlic, just with planting the larger cloves a little bit deeper in the soil. I've also created a video on how to grow normal garlic, and I'll link to that below this video. I think elephant garlic is delicious roasted and can be used in much the same way as normal garlic as a flavouring in many dishes. Now, not all elephant garlic bulbs go on to develop individual cloves. Individual elephant garlic cloves only develop if a garlic bulb has enough time to reach full maturity. If that doesn't happen, what you end up with is one large garlic bulb. Now, I find that when that happens, it's not a problem. When it comes to cooking, I just chop it up into the size I need, and that's it. In terms of planting elephant garlic, I'm planting mine today at the end of February. Planting in November would have been ideal, as that not only means an earlier harvest in the summer, but it also increases the chances of the garlic bulbs reaching full maturity. However, that wasn't possible this year as November was extremely cold. And with the frozen ground, it wasn't possible to push the garlic cloves into the soil. The first part in planting is to break apart a bulb into individual cloves, and that's easy to do. That's one. One thing I do want to show is that despite storing the elephant garlic cloves in cool, dry conditions inside my shed, a few of the bulbs are showing some signs of mould, like this one here. But when it's as soft as this one is, I'm certainly not going to plant that. Whereas a healthy bulb like this one should be really firm to the touch all over. I found that buying elephant garlic cloves can be relatively expensive compared to normal garlic. But my experience with elephant garlic is that this is only a cost in year one, because with a successful harvest, it's possible to separate off some of the bulbs, and those bulbs can provide the elephant garlic cloves for planting the following year. Now that I've grown elephant garlic for a few years, I have plenty of bulbs for eating and to use for next year's planting. So that's it by way of introduction. Now to get on with planting the cloves. But before I do that, just to say that I regularly produce videos on growing fruit, vegetables and herbs. And if you'd like to see these videos, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And you also may like to see my website, allotmentbook.co.uk. This is the bed I'm going to use to grow my elephant garlic. The last crop on this bed was a green manure called Phacelia tanacetifolia, and I've created a separate video series on growing green manures, and I'll link to that also below the video. I'm trying to disturb the soil as little as possible with my growing, because below the soil surface, bacteria, fungi and lots of soil microorganisms really help keep the soil healthy. Digging up the soil disturbs this ecosystem, and it also increases the risk of important nutrients in the soil being lost in heavy rainfall as the nutrients get leached away with the rain. So all I'm going to do to prepare this bed, and you can see that there are weeds across the surface, is to hoe those away. And that's it, that's the bed prepared. Now it's time to get on with the planting. I like to start by laying out the cloves on the surface. That way I get a good idea of the spacing and how much room they're going to take up, so that I know how much I've got left over from my other crops. I like to space the cloves about 25 centimetres apart in all directions, which is a little bit more than the width of my hand. Now that the cloves have been spaced out, I can see that I have a little patch at the end there which will be empty, and I'll fill that up with normal garlic. Because I haven't dug over the bed and I've only hoed away the weeds, the soil could be a little compacted when I come to push in the elephant garlic cloves, which risks damaging them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the end of my trowel to create a planting hole and then drop the cloves into that. Now, when it comes to planting depth, my rule of thumb is to leave the same amount of soil above the elephant garlic clove as the height of the garlic clove itself. So that would be approximately 2 inches of soil above this elephant garlic clove. Now, some people may plant their cloves a little bit more shallow than that, but my soil down here is really sandy and dry, and I find that by planting the elephant garlic cloves a little deeper, the roots have a greater opportunity for more moisture and the plants grow larger. On a heavier soil, I plant my elephant garlic cloves a little more shallow. So to quickly show what I do, I'm just going to push down here with my trowel and then simply drop the clove in. I'm dropping the clove in with the pointy side up and the hairy side at the bottom. If there are no roots on the end of the garlic bulb, it's the fatter side at the bottom and the thinner, more angular side at the top. And I simply push that down into the hole and then cover it very gently with some loose soil. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And that's it. That's all the elephant garlic cloves planted. Because I planted the elephant cloves quite deeply, I'm not going to cover the elephant garlic bed with a net, because unlike with onion sets, there are no tops sticking out of the ground for the birds to use to pull them up. For the rest of the video, I'm going to show how my elephant garlic grew last year, month by month, down here on my allotment. The garlic I sowed in October last year. This year I'm also growing elephant garlic, and I've got those plants next to the rhubarb. It should be possible to see that the leaves of the elephant garlic are much bigger than the leaves of ordinary garlic. And I did plant the cloves relatively late, probably towards the end of March. The traditional garlic I planted in October, but the elephant garlic didn't go into the ground until late March. They're growing really strongly now, but they're a long way away from being ready to harvest. I also gave the elephant garlic a good watering. The other thing I had to do was that the elephant garlic started to grow scapes, which are the stems that lead to the flowers. There's typically one scape per plant, and all that's needed is to pick off the scape, and that way all the energy goes into developing the bulb and not into the flower. These plants are starting to yellow, so maybe towards the end of August they'll be ready for harvesting. It's early September, and today's the day I'm going to be digging up my elephant garlic. One disadvantage of leaving it so long is that it becomes more difficult to see where the plants are, but luckily I planted them in a grid, so I hope it won't be too difficult to locate them. I pushed the cloves relatively deep at time of planting, so with a trowel I'm going to have to go quite deep to get underneath them to make sure I pull them up in one piece. Oh, there we go, that's the first one. I'm pretty pleased with that. Let's try this one now. That's number 2. Just try and remove the earth from around it. The earth is quite wet because of all the rain, but that one's looking good too. If I get underneath it here, there we go, that's looking good. Let's see about this one. Oh, that's looking really big. If I just remove some of the earth from around it. This one I think is the best yet. That is excellent. I'm really pleased with that. It's almost the size of the palm of my hand. If I lift the bulb up to get a better look at it, it should be possible to see the individual cloves, which are the bulges around the bulb. If I just count those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there are 6 cloves on this one. And one thing to point out are the length of the roots. So those roots are probably about 6 inches in length. On my plot I've got dry soil, and what I like to do is to plant the individual cloves relatively deep. And then once the plants are established, these roots here go down quite deep as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why the bulbs end up so large, in that they've got good access to moisture in the soil. This is a really good example. Not all my bulbs are as large as this, but it's really satisfying when they grow this large. By comparison, this one is probably my smallest bulb, maybe about half the size. That's the thing with growing your own vegetables, you always get a range of sizes. All that's required now is to take these back home, hang them up somewhere cool and dry, like a shed or any covered space outside, and then once dry, they should store pretty well. If I bring the harvest over here to take a better look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And that's 11 germinated out of 12 that I put in. Kind of give an indication of size. So this is an apple that's fallen off my apple tree. It's a little bit smaller, I guess, fractionally smaller than a normal sized apple that you'd buy in a supermarket, but the garlic clove is bigger. That's great. So I'm going to clean this up a little more. I'll probably snip the roots off and wash the soil off the outside of the bulb, leave them to dry in the sunshine, and they'll be ready to store for the winter. And that's it. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please let me know by hitting the like button or leaving a comment. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to the YouTube channel in the usual way. You may also like to see my website, allotmentbook.co.uk.